The demo we did got a few good reviews overseas in European magazines and what have you. And that's where Lethal Records first heard of us. I couldn't believe my eyes. There's a record contract in the mail.
We finally got a record fucking deal. Not that it was anything to jump up and down about.
Oh, it was all pretty exciting at the time, you know, record contracts, and I guess that was before a lot of people, you know, really did records.
So we basically jumped at the opportunity, like, cool, we can do a full length at last.
Yeah, it was cool. I guess I felt I was just at the right place at the right time.
Listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and stuff, as well as the heavier bands like Autopsy and Pungent Stench. So it's just we put it all into a big boiling pot and came out with Alchemist.
People do often say, hey, you sound like you're vomiting when you sing, which is true.
It got said in the newspaper the other day that we write our songs about Dungeons and Dragons, but we don't.
The new look Alchemist spent the remainder of that year performing shows and writing material for their first full-length CD.
The writing of Jar of Kingdom was kind of on a bit of a probationary period for me, so I sort of just went with the flow.
We wanted to write Piper at the Gates of Dawn for death metal, basically, and we had all these very ambitious ideas. And
we were really wanting to break some ground and be completely different from the extreme scene that there was at the time, which was death metal and grindcore. The recording of Jar of Kingdom was an absolute nightmare for me.
Went to the studio and it was really full-on conditions.
We were really on a limited budget, and we ended up having to record at night times because they have like a lockout period in the studios.
We could only afford to record from 10 at night till 6 in the morning.
it was the middle of the Australian summer, you know, like sort of 35 degrees.
Recording all through the night and trying to sleep in the day.
Sleeping in cars, not getting much sleep, being very tired, getting very pissed off at each other because of lack of sleep.
We're also saving money on accommodation, so we're staying on someone's floor, and it was actually a flea-ridden house.
And it was hot and we were staying with, you know, crusty hippies on the beach.
There'd be fleas all over you, flicking them off, you know, it was just absolutely gross.
Yeah, it was cool fun, but pretty full on.
It fucking killed us.
Unfortunately, we didn't get the engineer that we wanted. He was unavailable to record it, so we were with a new guy we'd never worked with before, and didn't really work out with him. He had a different vision for us, like, you know, he's putting on Nirvana CDs going, you know, check out this guitar sound, and we're going, you know, fuck no, we want to sound like Entombed, you know.
Adam's vocals deteriorated pretty quickly.
I can remember him, you know, screaming so hard recording Abstraction, the first song on the record, and thinking, yeah, that's sounding good.
Well, I got through Abstraction, which is the first song on the track, with vocals that are passable.
But him coming out after recording it, his voice was gone.
Pretty much because I was so tired, I lost my voice completely. And it just never came back. It just never came back, so we had a couple of days where we were just recording instruments and not trying to do any vocals.
Yeah, we were all looking at each other going, what the fuck are we going to do?
I remember being at Rich Studios and just trying the vocals so hard, and you know, looking through the glass at the boys and going, how's that? You know, and they're all sort of going, yeah, that's really good. yeah, I could tell that they just thought it sounded terrible, but you know, what could they do and what could I do? We had no more money left, we had no recording time left. We sped the tape up so anything I sung when you played it back at normal speed would sound lower to try and get that death metal sound. And the end result is the turdy guttural vocals on Jar of Kingdom, which I must say some of our fans just absolutely love. They love the desperation in it, and they're not wrong. It was completely desperate. There's a like band in joke, you know, when we talk about the vocals and that. So like, I'm trying, I'm really trying, and that's what it was like for me. It was terrible. I hated it, but at the end of the day, I was still happy to have put out our first record.
We had grand plans. It really didn't turn out how we wanted.
I guess we had delusions of grandeur a bit at the time, but we always knew what we were kind of going to expect. But we got to put out a record. That was all we really cared about.
It amazes me to this day how many people say, "Oh yeah, I like your stuff, but you know, Jar of Kingdom, that was where you peaked," kind of thing. It's interesting to hear that because, you know, Jar of Kingdom turned out nothing like we had hoped. We really wanted sort of this polished death metal, sounding, like I said, Piper at the Gates of Dawn type of album. But it didn't happen, obviously.
The title Jar of Kingdom was Rodney's brainchild. I remember him ringing me up one morning pretty excited.
I remember watching a guy called Graham Kennedy, who was a legend of Australian television, and he was talking about guerrilla in vitro fertilisation, and it was like a sort of a comedy piece, and he was talking about how there was the semen in the test tube. When it went back to Graham Kennedy, he said, did he have in his hand what I thought he had, like a jar of kingdom?
Blown a load in a, in a test tube, and there you got a Jar of Kingdom.
In 1993, Jar of Kingdom was released to critical acclaim. Although the band was disappointed with the poor sound production, the ambitious song ideas were captured on tape, and the recording immediately brought the group significant notoriety, both in Australia and internationally. Critics were baffled how to categorise this release, with its over-the-top death metal approach pulled with multi-layered psychedelia, sound effects, and esoteric lyrics.
Jar of Kingdom is the most psychedelic, spasticated, extreme metal album ever.
I listen to it now and I cringe a lot because I know, you know, deep down what we really wanted to achieve, and you know, we maybe got halfway there.
It's a crazy album. It's very hard for me to listen to. I think we've refined our style a little bit more since then, but I still really respect that record. The Jar of Kingdom album covers, well, it's a fluke. It actually turned out as good as it did.
I remember getting Lethal Records' first album cover and looking at it and just going, oh, that is shit. It just looks so crap.
And we opened it up and it literally was a picture of a table in a room with a superimposed skull floating upon it.
We were just like, no, that is just crap.
And we just all went, you got to be kidding, you know, this has just got nothing to do with the Alchemist and what we're about.
It was a lucky dip because we said no to the first album cover they sent us, and he said, oh, well, this is what you're getting the second time. So when we got the layout for Jar of Kingdom, it wasn't too bad.
I actually really liked the original Jar of Kingdom cover. We were just really lucky that it actually suited the songs on it.
Yeah, people certainly didn't know what to make of the record because, you know, it was so brutally heavy, or trying to be brutally heavy, and all over the place.
The production wasn't good. The song ideas weren't that fantastic, but the idea behind the record and the idea that Alchemist wanted to be a unique metal identity was what has brought us through.
Local media and recording companies suddenly developed a newfound curiosity for this independent band that had been signed by a European label. During this era, Alchemist's core following grew rapidly as the band also secured significant support slots for international heavies such as Creator, Pungent Stench, and Bolt Thrower. In 1994, after heavy touring and writing schedules, the band returned to 2XX Studios in Canberra to demo new tracks for their forthcoming recording. The resulting Alchemist Promo 94 was sent to labels across the globe and heavily traded throughout the metal underground. Off the back of Jar of Kingdom's success, the band were presented with several recording contracts, and they soon signed with rising Australian indie label Shock Records for a 3-disc deal.